Hey, welcome back. We had stopped at process 4, which is basically all the mechanical parts and pieces put together. And now we are on 5, which is the extruder assembly. I've already got all the parts and pieces laid out. And for now, I'm going to move the frame kind of up and out of the way. Let's see. How about right there? That way you guys can see what I'm working on. Okay, and then we need the extruder idler, the Bondtech pulley without the tightening, grub screw, which one has a grub screw, the other one doesn't, so we need the one without the grub screw. We need these 2 bearings, little tiny guys, the pulley shaft, and 2 square nuts. So we insert the square nuts into the little slots on the side. So they just pop right in. You can use a little Allen key to push it in the rest of the way. Okay, so we got both square nuts put in, and then we need to put in both. It says insert both bearings into the pulley. Okay, so we put both of them in there, so there's 2, and they can slip out, so we're just going to rest it on the side like that. Make sure both of these bearings are inside the pulley, inside the Bondtech. We're going to orient it like this with the tab off to the side facing the right. And we're going to place this in the middle, making sure that the bearings stay in place. And we'll take this pin and slide it through. That's a really tight fit. I don't want to push too hard. I feel like I might break something. It says use reasonable force or something might break. Oh, that's really tight. I think I'm gonna try to clean up this hole with my knife. I'm not sure why I'm having a hard time. The hole looks fairly well printed. Maybe I just need to get it started. And one end of this pin is chamfered, so I'm using the chamfered end, and so it should get started fairly easily. I feel like the hole is a little bit undersized, so maybe they'll take that into consideration. Let me look at the comments here. Yeah, they're having trouble too. Use a 3mm drill bit to widen up the hole by hand. Put the chamfer side in first, so I'm doing that. Some people are using a file. Make sure the hole is not too big so it doesn't fall out. No way to get it in by hand. Possibly, if you had a pair of pliers large enough, you could press it in like this by squeezing the pliers. I think I'm going to try to find a drill bit that's a similar size, maybe just a little bit smaller, and just twist it by hand. So I'll be right back. I think I have some drill bits over on the shelf. Over here, hopefully they're still up here. Yeah, here they are. Now these are not metric bits, but as long as we stay undersized, I think we'll be okay. I'm going to start off with a 3/32. Okay, that's way too small. And then jump up to a 7/64. I have a feeling this might be too big. So I'm just running this in there by hand, trying to loosen it up. I'm going to try the pin again. Still a really tight fit. The next size up is 1/8. I feel like that's going to be way too big. When I size up the 1/8 with 3mm, the 1/8 is noticeably larger. So maybe if I just get this one side cleaned out so I can get it started. And then we'll friction fit it with the other side. So I'm having some luck there. I'm just removing a little bit at a time. So I don't want to take too much. It's still too tight. Yeah, 1/8 is definitely too big. So I don't want to go all the way through with the 1/8. There it goes. So I got it to push through. But I had to clean it out quite a bit with the 1/8 inch bit. If you happen to have a size in between 7/64 and 1/8, I would use that instead of the 1/8 bit. Or if you have a 3mm bit, use that, but I don't have a metric drill bit set. Okay, let me put that back up, get the Bondtech gear back in place, make sure I've got it lined up properly. Turn it around, make sure both bearings are still in. I'm putting the chamfer side in first. Make sure I get it in there. Okay, good. It's sticking out a little bit. I think I could just force it in there a bit, maybe with the pliers. Or just something. It's hurting my thumb when I'm pressing on it, so I'm going to get something metal to press against. Okay. And this still rotates, so I'm all good. The bearings are in good working order. That's not coming out. I think it would probably break if I try to remove this pin. Okay, for the next steps, I need, so that's done and finished. I'm going to put it right there. I need the, what is this called? The extruder body. So this is the extruder body. The filament sensor, which is probably in the electronics kit over here. Let's see. There's the hot end. There he is. The filament sensor. And we need an M3 by 10 screw. And we need 2 M3 nuts, just the regular kind, not the nylock. Okay, we've got everything. We need to insert the nuts here and on the reverse here. So we'll put this one in first. That went in crooked. Let me try to grab it back out of there. Okay, I got it out. I'm going to try to put it in there nice and flush using the end of this. No, it likes to jump in there sideways. I think I'm going to use this trick. I'll go ahead and thread it on one of the screws and pull it into place. Much easier. I'll do the same thing for the reverse, keeping my finger over the other one so it doesn't fall out. I've got it threaded on there, and then I just undo it. So I used one of the, what is that, an M3 by 30 screws that were just extra over here. So I've got that. Got both those pulled in. Now I put the filament sensor in the top here. Do not force the filament sensor into the slot. You could damage the PCB. So let me line this up like they have it. And these header pins line up. There's a little cutout for them. And it just fits right in place. Mine's a little bit loose. I'm sure they did that on purpose. So no big deal. Yep, there's a mirror, so I'm looking at it straight on, and so there's a mirror, and it looks like some sort of maybe receiver or sensor. Locate. Okay, so it says take an M10 screw, and you put it through the sensor and tighten it into place. And it looks like these are just, this screw is just going to thread straight through into the 3D printed part. So I'm having trouble getting it started. I don't know if it's hung up on something. I'm gonna take out the sensor and look. Yeah, it looks like there's a little bit of plastic that got bent over. So I'm gonna use the flat head to kind of pry that out. It looks like the overhang is kind of drooping down. So when they printed this part, that hole was in the vertical direction, and the top, the overhang just kind of drooped a little bit, possibly. And so it's making it difficult for me to get this screw started. So let me try again. I'm going to insert that, put the screw in, make sure it's lined up. I'm going to lay this down on my mat and try to apply some pressure to get it started. There it goes. Now I can feel it. If you guys heard that little thump, that was me breaking through the plastic. There was some overhang left over in there. So these parts aren't 100% perfect. There may be like a little bit of cleanup to do. I think that's the first cleanup I've had to do, other than the when we were working on this guy, a little modification on the Bondtech extruder gear. So it says to tighten this down fully, but be careful to avoid tightening too much, might cause damage. So I just use the small end of the Allen wrench to tighten. That's in there nice and tight. So on to step 9. Put this to the side. We need this guy again. We need 2 transparent washers and the 2 M3 by 30. And so I'm going to stack these guys up. That's the 25. I need the one that's a little bit longer. So these packages are great. You don't have to measure your fasteners. Okay, so I need to attach the extruder assembly and the idler. We got to figure out how all this goes in place. Okay, it goes on there something like this. Okay, so we're going to take the M30, we're going to place it through this hole, we're going to take the transparent washer, put it over the M30, and then this piece is going to line up just like this. We're going to thread it through the idler. Just like that. So hopefully that's pretty easy to see. This is the filament sensor sticking out, and this is the idler. And then it says finish with the second washer. So I'm going to take the second washer, the clear washer. These are really easy to lose, so be careful. I placed it on the end of the M30 that we just stuck in there. Then I'm going to place this to the side and make sure I don't lose anything. So now I need the, I think it's the last and final stepper motor, the extruder motor. Yep. And so it is labeled in both places. There's an E. Hopefully you guys can see that. There's an E, if it'll focus, on the wire. And then it's also laser engraved as extruder, which is very cool. It's very nice details again. And then we need the Bondtech with the set screw so we can attach it to the extruder. So we need to make sure that the flat part of the extruder shaft is facing us. And the screw for the extruder, like this hob gear here, needs to be flat against the shaft. And make sure not to press, do not press the pulley motor, the pulley against the extruder. I'm sorry, do not press the pulley against the stepper motor. So it should be slightly above the end of the edge of the shaft. So it should not be flush. And there's really great pictures in the online manual. So it's almost IKEA style. Okay, now we're going to mount the extruder motor to this assembly. We need 2 M3 by 30 screws. So 2 more of these. And this assembly, oh, I hope I didn't drop something. Nope. Oh, I dropped the clear washer. Okay. Make sure I put that back on. This is very easy to lose. If I didn't have this mat here, it'd be very difficult to find. There's almost no contrast. We'll turn this over, and 2 M30 screws go in here. The extruder with the wire facing yourself fits right in here, and then you tighten it down. Let me make sure that washer's still on there. Yep, the washer's still on there, and then you tighten down these 3. So it says tighten the 2 that we just put in, the ones on the bottom, the ones facing me, to tighten those down first. And then this guy, just tighten down slightly, because this has to rotate freely. And so while you're at it, make sure that it rotates freely. And once you feel resistance, just give it a little, maybe an 1/8 or 1/4 turn. So adjusting and tightening the pulley. So open this fully, so it's completely open, like this. Use a piece of 1.75 millimeter filament from the spool to align the pulley. So if you just kind of look overhead, you could see if the hobbed gears are aligned, which they are. Yeah. So if you follow the picture, it's almost perfect. I think it's just a little bit, it could stand to be a little bit further out. So I'm going to rotate it so I can see the little set screw. And I'm going to push it towards the end of the shaft just a little bit. That's a lot better. Yep, they're nice and lined up. Good. Okay, now we have to secure the idler. So we need two M3x40s. So these are the longest ones. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do with this extra screw. It never said to do anything with it quite yet. It'll probably, I'm assuming that you attach it in this empty spot to the stepper motor, but I'll just wait until it tells me to. So I need these two and I need these two springs. And it looks like they gave me a spare grub screw for the Bondtech gear, hop gear. Okay, so we need these. We put the springs over the screws, like so. And then we close this and put these in. And they're going to thread through those square nuts that we put in earlier. So this should almost be aligned. That's what it says. The head of the screw should almost be aligned with the surface of the print. Oh, I have it on there backwards. I got confused. I should be coming at it from the other side. It should be this way because there's the counterbore holes and it goes in just like this. And these should almost be flush. That's how you adjust the tension. Okay. Good. So now we need to put two more square nuts in. So we'll turn it back over. There's two more slots here for more square nuts. I think I might try to use the needle nose just to get them started. That's tough. There it goes. Slid into place. So the needle nose pliers help you keep everything lined up because these little square nuts like to jump in there sideways. Okay, So they go quite a ways in there. So if you have your Allen wrench, you can kind of push them in. Okay, got them in there. Make sure they're in. Oh, it says to use your Allen key, a skinny one, and poke it through. It should go through all the way. So as long as it comes out the other side like this, then you're good. So step 17, the extruder cover. So we'll place this to the side over here. We need the extruder cover, which is the piece with the arm coming out. So the extruder cover, one square nut, one hex nut, and two M3 by 25 screws. So the hex nut goes in the hex hole on the end of the arm out here. And the square nut goes in the bottom. That one's fighting me a little bit. Oh, that one has some nasty overhang issues. There we go. So I got it pushed in, and then I think I'll just use my screwdriver, my flathead, very carefully to push it in place. So make sure when you're pressing down with your flathead screwdriver that your hand is not below the screwdriver, just in case you slip. Okay, got those inserted. Now insert the E3D hot end. So we're back to this guy. So there's this nice little slot for the hot end. And it's all packaged up and zip tied. So this bit has to go in first at an angle. And let's see. And let's see. Okay. Let me try again here. I've got it stuck in there now and I can't get it back out. That PTF tube is kind of stuck. I don't want to yank this whole thing apart. Okay, I can just rotate this around. Good. So the end should look just like that, with your heater cartridge and your thermistor should be pointing away from your stepper motor. Be very careful with these wires. They can be fragile, so they're easy to snap off, so don't pry on those wires, and make sure that the hot end is seated flush. So now we need the cover that we just made. And so with the extruder, the stepper motor facing up, you'll take this, and it kind of mounts with this hex to the upper left, and then there's this fan grate type of thing over here. Those mount together. It says both sides must be in direct contact, so just kind of wiggle it back and forth until you can get both sides to mate. And then you take your M3 by 25 screws and you put them in, let's see, it says you put them in right through here. Yeah, that's right. So if you're just joining us in the live stream, I'm putting together the Prusa i3 Mark III. We're on the extruder step. Got the whole rest of the printer put together right here in my previous live streams. It's about 9:30. I think I'm gonna make it through the extruder, and I'll probably stop for tonight once I get past that. I'm not watching the chat right now. I don't have a device for that. I'm streaming with OBS, so I don't have YouTube chat open. So if you have any questions, just leave a comment. I'll be happy to review it later. So I was just reading whether or not I should tighten these all the way. And it said go ahead and tighten both parts together, so I will do that. So it helps to tighten this if you squeeze it together with your hands. And it says both sides should mate together. I'm having trouble. This one keeps spinning. I'm going to try to push the nut further in, and I'm going to loosen up on this other side. And then tighten this side. Let's see if I can make it. There it goes. Now it's engaging. Oh, I see what's going on. The nut is actually in there sideways. So let me back this out. and see if I can get it to mount in there flush. Okay, so I backed those out. Now I'm going to try to retighten, and hopefully that nut stays in place and I can thread into it. And there it goes. I think I grabbed it. That time, let me tighten back up. Tighten up the other side. Okay, now they're both tightened. Now I need 2 cooling fans. Let's see. They're probably in the box over there. Okay. So we've got there's an axial fan and a radial fan. And we need 4 of the M3 by 18. Oh, we need 6 altogether, so 4 for this one and 2 for the other guy. So it says this has 2 sides. The side with the sticker must be facing the hot end. So it should not be visible. So this is the side that you should see. And it's got some really neat grooves in the blades of the fan. I'm sure it's for noise reduction. Hopefully you guys can see that. Everybody said that this fan is really quiet. Okay, so we need to place the extruder on its side, like this. Place the left hot end fan. Oh, so this cable needs to come across like this. Well, that's pretty nifty. I'm just using my fingernail to push that in place so it's nice and tucked up underneath there. So that's good. And then we put the fan with the wire facing the same direction as the stepper motor. Oh, this fan even has rubber mounts. That's a nice touch. So it reduces vibration. Okay, so these are gonna have to thread into the plastic. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and create the threads for those so I'm not fighting fighting that with a fan in the way. Oh, I'm supposed to be using the 18. Okay. These guys. So 4 of these. Okay. So far, this printer's going together beautifully. And the print quality and the design, very good overall. So I've got it like it's on the picture, like it is on the picture. Got the wire sticking out the side like this. It's lined up with the holes. I go ahead and thread these in. Okay, so now make sure that it says to make sure that they're all in there a little bit, and then tighten the diagonals first. And then make sure that the fan can rotate freely. Yep. Okay, now I'm going to tighten the other two. And then after each screw, I'm going to make sure that the fan can still rotate. Yep, the fan can still rotate. So on step 22, mounting the front hot end fan. So this is that one. I need to rotate this like it is in the picture. So the extruder stepper motor is facing me, and the hot end is facing up. So this is mount the front print fan using two M3 by 18 screws. So it goes on this arm that's sticking out. And their fan in the instruction booklet does not illustrate the wire placement. but I'm pretty sure it's like this. The wires come off this way. So before I put that on there, I'm going to go ahead and create. Oh, this one already has a nut. Okay, good. So let me go ahead and pull that one in there, because it's kind of crooked. It's not in there flat. Nope, it just jumped right out. We'll get it later. I'm going to hold it in with one hand and then get it from the other side. Nope. I'm going to take the screw out and give it another shot. I'm going to try to seat this further down in there. Maybe if I grab it with the needle nose, I can get it to seat. I think I'm going to get a shorter screw and tighten it up all the way and get it to seat in there properly. That way I'm not going to have to fight it. So I'm just putting a shorter screw in there. I'll tighten it a few turns and get it nice and snug. And now it should be seated in there with just friction. So now I can thread the fan in there, the fan screw. It's almost like this is not quite long enough. Let's see. It says by 18. Do I have the right ones? Yep, I'm using the right length. Not sure why it's not threading in there. Let me get the other one in there. This one's tricky because the stepper motor wires are in the way. So you kind of have to push them out of your way. Get it lined up here. There we go. Now I can get this one, hopefully get it on there. It's just not wanting to cooperate at all. Let me put a longer one in there for now and just try to get it pulled in there. I think there's some little plastic bits stuck in there, and it's causing the nut not to seat flush. Yeah, it's just not quite long enough. I'm going to make it work. almost there. Oh, I'm so close. Oh, I think I caught it. I caught a thread. Okay, do not tighten the screws too hard. All parts are made of plastic and you can break them. Okay, so I don't think I tightened it too hard. The fan is still spinning, so we're good there. Let's look at the comments. Okay, nobody had any comments about that. Okay, now for the pin to probe. So we need this guy, the pin to probe. This is handle this with care. It's a very sensitive device. We need an N3 by 10, which is this guy, one of those, and a square nut. So we take this and undo the twist tie on the fan here. And this wire goes through this little hook on the edge of the extruder assembly. It says gently push the pin to probe through the mount. So this is the mount, and it comes in from this direction in front of the fan wire, just like this. Okay, and then it says to make a strain relief, so you loop the cable so it goes up, and then you loop it something like this, like a cursive E. And then you insert the square nut into the pin to probe mount, and tighten it slightly. So the exact position can be adjusted later. There's no need to adjust the probe or tighten the screw fully at this point. So we'll get it snug so that square nut doesn't fall out. But I do know that the probe cannot be below the height of the extruder nozzle. Otherwise you'd be dragging your probe through your print. So I don't think my square nut is all the way in. I'm going to use a hex key to push it in. Okay, now I've got it threaded on there. I can stop tightening that up. And I'm going to place, got a little strain relief. It's in front of the fan wire. Okay, good. So I need to prep the extruder cables. So place the extruder on the Y carriage, as in the first picture. So I'm going to move all this out of the way, clear some space. This guy with the logo should be facing away from you. And the extruder stepper motor should be facing away and down on the carriage. It says to put it just like this for now. And we'll get this centered up. And then it says take the cables from the pin to probe in the front print fan and slide it between the lower smooth rod and the belt. So right in between here. So that is the black vinyl cable and the red, yellow, black cable. So we need to pull those out of this big jumble. Those are the ones that are on my left right now. So these two cables need to go right through here. So up and over. Make sure they're not tied in any knots. Okay, this one's up and over. Good. And then it says take the cables, basically the remaining cables from the hot end fan and the stepper motor, and put those on the other side. So those would go on my right side. So this goes up and over. Make sure nothing's kinked. Just like that. Good. So now we need to mount the extruder. So we need one M3x40. That's one of the long guys. M3x30. So that's that extra one that I didn't know where it was going to go to. And then we need the M3x18. One of these guys. So one of each. Oh, that's nice. They have them color coded. So this mounts onto the front. It says to make sure to take care of the wires coming through. And so we'll start with the 40, the longest, and it is blue. So it's going to go through the top. So this one. Oops. Kind of hard to see what you're doing. I'll get that one tightened up. And then I don't have to hold this thing in place. I need to make sure that all my wires are nice and free, not pinched on anything before I tighten this up. Okay. I'm not going to tighten it a whole bunch. And then the next one is green, and that is the M3x30, and it goes on my right through the center of the belt lock in the back. It feels like it's trying to grab, but it's not right there. And then the last one is pink. It's M3x18, and it goes on my left. So just tighten them all equally to prevent problems. And then all the wires should be guided through these little slots. I noticed an issue here that the extruder wires, I need to take this back apart. The extruder wires didn't make it through the gap like they were supposed to. That's probably why I can't tighten this side. So it's always good to check everything before you tighten it all up. So I'm going to loosen this all back up, make sure nothing's pinched. Okay, it all looks good. And I'm going to guide it down into the slot with some gentle persuasion. Maybe I'll use an Allen wrench to kind of poke it in there. I think I'm going to stand up for this. Oh yeah, that's a lot easier. Now I can see what I'm doing. There's actually a little cutout. Ooh, this is tedious. It's kind of one of those things where you need 3 hands in order to make it work. Oh, there it goes. Okay. That was easier said than done. So you'll know it when you get it, because the whole thing will just snap right in place. We'll make sure the pin to probe is attached. So it jumped out of place when I was fighting this other thing. So I need to loosen all this back up and get the pin to probe wire in place too. And hopefully the other wires don't jump out of place. There it goes. Okay, everything looks good. Except I accidentally flipped my belt. Okay, good. All the cables are nice and free. So that little bit that I snapped off in one of my previous streams was one of the cable guides. So everything's working fine. I don't think I need to reprint this part. Okay, good. Everything looks good. Now I need the, preparing the exterior back, I need the back plate and a nut, exterior back, cable holder, which is this neat looking piece. That's the cable holder. And an M3 nut. M3 by 10. It says that was temporary, and then the M3 by 40. So that's the last M3 by 40. Okay. So it says to insert the M3 by 10 into, let's see, what if I just show you over here? Into this one. I think I'm going to have to create some threads because it's kind of tight. Insert. And then rotate it over and insert the M3 nut. Kind of thread it on a little bit, and then you tighten that until that nut forces itself in place. So it's spinning on me. I'm going to have to loosen it up a little bit and get it lined up. Okay, I got it nice and seated, and then it says I can take the M3 by 10 and put it back in my spares bag. So step 29, place the M40 all the way down the length of the cable holder. There's one side that's counterboard, so it goes on that side. Okay, it says to take the X carriage back holder, and it says that you should be able to see the MK3 sign. Mine is just barely visible. I can show you in the camera. You can just barely see that. It's right next to my index finger. So it looks like this one suffered from some print quality issues. I think maybe that could be, like the indentation could be increased a little bit. There's some thin layer issues. But make sure that you can see the symbol, and then tighten this into that nut that we just put in. Tighten the cable holder into that nut. So there's a U shape on the top part and the bottom, and those should line up with each other. They should be properly aligned. Okay, now we need the cable for the filament sensor, which is red, white, blue, and black. So this guy. And there are two types of connectors. There's one that looks like a 5-pin, and there's another one that has a little snappy-do on it. So the green one with the snap is the one we use now. The other one's for the board. So that plugs in to the filament sensor. It looks like it only goes in one way. The snap faces your left as you're facing the sensor. I think it doesn't really give you much. It doesn't click on or anything. Maybe I'm not pushing it in all the way. Let me give it another shot standing up and see. Yep, that's all the way in. No, there's no positive snap or anything, but it just kind of held there in friction. Yeah, the side with the safety pin must be on the left, so I got that right. And then you make a clockwise loop, and then create like a little strain relief, and push it through the opening and the X carriage. Clockwise loop. There's a little opening right there. I guess I just leave it there for now. It doesn't really want to stay in that little gap. We'll leave it there for later. Worry about it later. So now I need to push the cables from, it says from the extruder. See the X carriage back. Okay, so now we're about to button everything up. So the first thing we need is the extruder. So it's the one with the blue, green, red, and black wires. So that goes in first. And the left hot end fan, that's the one with the black Yeah, that's the one with the black casing on it. I was just double checking that on my iPad. And then the pin to probe and the prick fan go in. There's the hot air fan and the probe. I'm going to put my probe on my left side and my other two on the right hand side. So I've got all those going. Cables from the hot end are not going through this. And then slide it all the way to the back side of the X carriage. Check. And then you need to wiggle the filament adjust the filament sensor cable. And it kind of runs down the back. So this red, white, and blue runs down the back. I'm sorry you guys can't see any of this, but it would be nearly impossible for me to do this backwards. So I just need to make sure that it's not pinched, which it's not. So everything's in there nice and tight. I've got all 4 cables coming out. To the back, it looks good. And now I use 5 M3x10 screws to tighten everything together. So I'll start in the middle. There it goes, snapped into place. Okay, I'll leave that one a little bit loose and come back and get it tightened up later. And then there's one in each corner. So there's 2 at the top. I'll get those put in. And then 2 at the bottom. Oops. I'm just making sure everything is threading in properly. This side doesn't seem to want to thread into the square nut, so I'm going to try the bottom and see if I can get that put in. 10. Yep, using the right ones. Had to double check. There's a big gap at the bottom. I'm not sure why. I think maybe, oh, okay. The bearing had slid over and it was causing the whole thing to separate. So make sure your bottom bearing is seated properly before you start putting everything together. So if you can hold the whole thing together, if you can find a good place to grip. There it goes. It's all snapping into place now. So far, this is the longest part of the build, the extruder. Okay, that one's tight. That one's tight. Okay, we're all good. Now preparing the nylon filament. There are 2 nylon filaments. So 50 and 30 centimeters. So here they are. This is what I saw earlier. So these guys here. Okay, so it says to use the longer one. In this step, I'll put the other one away. Using pliers, cut one end of the filament to create a tip. So I'm going to use my snips. So I need a really sharp little tip. So I'm going to cut it at an angle. Just like that. So find a slot for the filament. So it must be passed to the back. There's a tiny little hole back there. It's really tough to see. I've got a picture on here. I think you can just kind of poke around until you find it. Or if you have a flashlight or something, that would be really handy. I think I'm going to have to get my flashlight out because I can't see it at all. I'll be right back. Okay, I got my flashlight. Got the sharp end of this filament. Okay. So it's a little bit above. I might even cut this at a sharper tip, sharper angle. So I can go in from both sides. Okay, I got it put in. So a flashlight is very, very handy for that. And then it says use pliers to insert it into the slot. It says be very careful because you could damage all your wires. Okay, I think I pressed on it as much as I want to press on it. Says pull on it. Okay, it's in there pretty good. So now you can poke the filament sensor wires and a little guide in the back. There's a little channel that's cut. And I'm on step 39 if you want to follow along. So you shove it all in there, and then it all kind of sits on that little cantilever post. And then there's some spiral wrap. So it's the largest one, and you wind it around the cables in the nylon. Start with the cables from the upper part after 3 or 4 turns. Slide the wrap on the cable holder if possible. Press the wrap slightly next. So I'm going to attempt this. I'm going to bundle all the wires together, get them on here. Start trying to wrap this sucker. This is after 3 or 4 turns. If you guys know of a better way to do this, oh, there it goes. Okay, that's not so bad. So once you get it on there, you just twist it with your hand, and it just goes right in there. It's almost like you're threading a screw. And it says, if possible, try to push it up into the carriage so everything's nice and neat. Okay, so mine went in a little bit. So I'm going to turn this sideways so you guys can kind of see what's going on here. So I've got the cables in there. And then I need 3 zip ties, all coming in from this side. One, 2, and 3. Check for the last time everything's seated. Make sure that you put these on correctly, because if not, you'll have printing issues. So the first one has to be on the left side. The head of the zip tie needs to be all the way on this side. So it needs to be as close as possible to the printer part. So all the way around, and so the head needs to be over here. Okay, and then the second one's on top, but slightly to the left. So kind of like that. Okay. And now I can cut these off. As close as I can to the spiral wrap. When you're using snips around your wires, make sure you don't cut your wires. It goes without saying, but felt like I wanted to mention that. Okay, and then tightening the spiral wrap. So 2 more zip ties. And they come in, but these are facing down. So the opposite direction of what we just did. Just like that. I'm going to go ahead and clip the zip tie that's around the hot end wires. Okay, I can go ahead and tighten these. And these can face down. Look from that side, looks pretty good to me. I'll go ahead and trim those. Okay. Now we need to finalize the wrap. So I'm going to introduce the hot end wires to the wrap. Right here. And then go ahead and wrap the whole thing. So I'm going to get all these kind of straightened out together so they don't bind. think I'm almost done. Then I need to mount the filament sensor cover. Okay, that's done. It looks pretty good. So now we need the filament sensor cover, which is this guy, and there's a little piece of PTF tubing, the idler plug, and 2 M3x10 screws. I think that's it. So it says locate the largest hole on top of your extruder, which is right here, and then you push the PTF tubing down in there. I think it's symmetrical, so you could push it in either way. Then this mounts over the top, and make sure that the screw pattern matches. And then I use the 2 M3x10 screws to mount it. Oop. Not sure where that went. I didn't hear it hit the floor, so he's still on the table somewhere. There he is. Let's try again. If you're still with me, thanks for watching. We're getting close to the end here. This is ran long. Almost done. Okay, good. That looks good. And then there is a cutout for the M3 screw, visible. This little guy just pokes right in there. Oh, that was easy. So this little tiny piece, let's see if you can get that to focus. That little tiny piece just pops in right over the idler screw. Idler plug, okay. So otherwise it might fall down during printing. So it's in there really well. So mounting the fan nozzle. So I need this guy, and I'm going to mount him over the fan. So I'm going to turn the whole frame around to face me. I need an M3x10. Let's see. Okay. Carefully slide the X-axis up so you have access to the lower part of the extruder. Okay. Release slightly both fan screws in the front of the print. Okay, so these are the cooling fan screws. So I release those slightly. And then M3 by 10. Looks like it just fits around the end. Oh yeah, that's pretty easy. Okay, there it goes, snapped into place. Okay, I'm going to tighten the fan back up. Make sure there's no rattles. Okay, so that's done. E-axis is finished. Are we almost there yet? So that's the hardest part of the assembly. Good. So check the final look. Everything looks really good. The probe looks good. So now on to the LCD assembly. We're going to call it a night. Thanks. If you're still around, thanks for sticking around. Question or comments, please let me know. I'd love to hear from you. And have a good night. We'll probably continue this tomorrow night. Thank you.